one kid's name from? I'm gonna put Marty in the game.
Is it focused? Is
I
it?
put the garbage picking, field goal kicking Philadelphia phenomena, Tony Danza,
Danza.
at place kicker, every day of the week.
We'll get to that. That'd be a
Wait, do we put Al Bundy at running back?
TV fictional? I feel like you had to lay off on it.
If we want to do an intro, we have one added in. Yes. Just jump right in.
We can still. I mean, we can
Cool.
still do intro. That's fine. We don't have to just not do. Yeah,
So transgenders in bathrooms. Thoughts, Cody?
I don't care what you are. Just wash your fucking hands.
Yeah, a girl got on me for that. I'm sitting there watching Modern Family with one hand down my pants, trying to honor Ed O'Neill, who perfected it in the late '90s.
Mhm.
She's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Honoring a great man,
Man,
great Al Bundy."
you could do it with Gloria.
No, I saw a thing earlier where it showed all the '90s TV show families, and it was like, if you had to pick one where you were adopted by that family and you had to live with them, which one would you pick? And the first one I thought of was the first comment when I clicked on it was Married with Children. They're like, so I'm not related to any of them, right? I just get to live there, right? She's not like my sister or anything. And I was like, he was like, Married with Children, obviously, and I'm like, smart move.
I mean,
I would go with 8 Simple Rules.
Somebody else put that one too.
I mean, if
Or Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, just because it's going to be funny to explain.
Irish Crow.
I'd be like, what?
I mean, Full House would be a good one too when they're older.
Fuller House.
Fuller House. Yeah.
Well, even in Full House, they're old. They're like she's in high school. DJ is by the time it ends.
Jody Sweden could get it.
I thought you turned one. No, maybe not. I thought I saw one flash in blue.
Jody Sweden can still get
Let's
it.
go turn on.
Well, that's got the volume.
Yeah, but I mean, both. What the fuck about the mics for if we're not going to use them? No, we got to turn on from the sensor there.
Oh, they handed it to you. You didn't turn it on.
No, I just did the other part. I got it all set up. I said, check this out, and then you
So-
be the person turn.
Is it?
In today's world, because if you were with like Married with Children where they were that age, but in today's world, then your stepbrother, and there's a whole like list for that.
The whole genre.
There's a yeah, click on it. There's pages and pages.
Someone was like, they made a parody for the 8 Simple Rules or whatever one of those movies. They're like, they made a parody for that.
They have Lexus Texas stars.
Good actor.
Good actors.
She really gives her all in her roles.
Yeah, what can you say? Kay Seagal's character is a pretty bad too. Forget who does her though. Well, you know, back in the day when you had LimeWire, you were just like, let's search some stuff.
Yeah.
And then I got that letter in the mail saying,
You searched too
you're
much
getting
stuff.
sued for $1,200.
I never got one.
I looked up the wrong tape.
Back in the day where you gave your computer aids just to have a decent amount of music.
Oh, yeah.
Or whatever it is
Or
that you
movies.
chose to watch.
And whatever you.
I downloaded
Yeah.
Wolverine and it was the pre-cut, so it showed all the strings and dummies and stuff. And I'm like, I mean, I still got to see the movie, but
Yeah.
yeah, it was all before all the.
I like the one where it's just someone in the theater holding up the camera.
Yeah.
traditional bootleg.
And it's like, hey, get down. It's like, I'm missing some parts here.
Reminds you of the Hurt Locker. It's like none of that shaky shit.
Oh, God.
Although if you could get a pirate Cloverfield, and then if your shaking could offset the camera shaking, then it's just a still. It might actually be a better movie.
I never saw that one.
The one with John Goodman?
I don't know, but that movie gives me a headache because the camera is not still.
Is it one of those like POV movies like Paranormal Activity,
Similar with
Backdoor Sluts Night.
with more.
or is it more like
That was a good one. It was 7. That was more than 7.
what was the name of the movie with Michael B. Jordan? Where they got like superpowers. Is it similar to that one?
Project X or something like that?
No, Project X was the one where the high school kids.
Oh,
were-
Chronicle.
Chronicle. Yeah.
Right.
Was it similar to that, where it was like somebody filming it off their phone like the
It's
whole time?
what it seemed like. And
Yeah.
it was
Michael B. Jordan before Michael B. Jordan.
Basically, that was like a very early role for him.
Yeah.
I think the main character was the guy who ended up playing, in Spider-Man, right?
I'm thinking of the wrong movie. I'm over here thinking of Jumper.
Oh,
Hayden Christensen.
yeah, with Hayden Christensen.
And I'm Hayden Christensen.
The weirdest thing was the character name. Main character's name was David Rice, and I was like, "That's
Well, no, what's weird is
my bad."
somebody shared something earlier on Facebook, and the person's thing that they shared was like they build homes or something like that, and his name was Jonathan Rice. And I'm like, the fucking another Jonathan Rice that lives in Myrtle Beach.
They exist.
There's another Jonathan Rice that works at Pirates Forge.
Blow your mind.
And he's back. He's back up Blackbeard. When he's out there at the end of the show, he introduces himself. He's like, "I'm Jonathan Rice," and I'm always just standing out there going, "Me too." And keep on going.
We're gonna get one of those.
Switch roles one time. See how that works.
I thought about that. I actually have pitched the idea of doing an April Fool's show where you get like half off tickets or something, but everybody's in the wrong role. The servers are trying to be the acrobats are trying to be the servers, the bartenders are trying to be the actors.
God,
I feel like that would be a liability of injuries. Yeah, I was gonna say.
Well, you'd obviously have to agree to everything before you did everything.
I just want to know which one of those servers is jumping off the high plank into the water.
Me, 100%. I would do it. We thought it would be funny with also all male mermaids, but trying to fit in the mermaid stuff. So like just trying
You
to
don't
put
have
the
plus size mermaids, dude. You gotta get with the times.
Put the tail on. We have a.
If there's fat Victoria's Secret bottles, there should be fat mermaids.
She's not. I would not
Mermaid.
consider her fat in any way, but there is a thick.
Careful, she might be watching this.
Doubt it. There's a thick acrobat, and I don't know why the fact that she is thick makes her hotter than the rest of the acrobats. But I have about 6 people that are on board with that with me, and I was like, they hired an acrobat, and they were like, yeah, I was like, she's pretty thick, not thick in a way where she's like you not borderline like hefty,
Like you shouldn't be wearing that.
but no, like she should be wearing that.
No, I'm saying she's not to that point where you're like you shouldn't be.
She's the right level of like curvy, whereas the rest of them are stick figures. And I was asked one of them, I was like, why does that make her hotter than the rest of them? It's like, I don't know, but right? And it had a whole moment on the whole thing.
Let me guess, you have no chance.
Oh, I never had a chance, and I never had a chance in the world. I don't even know what her name is.
Oh.
You don't even know what her name
Well,
is.
thick pirate voyage acrobat lady, if you're watching, Cody Rice. Learn to love him.
Love to hate him.
Pretty much. It's either one at this
Surely
point.
how it works.
It's either one at this point, and for the most part, most of them go with the latter. I don't really understand why, but it is.
All been there. All right, I guess we should jump in.
Exciting weekend of football.
Not as exciting as I thought. It was one game that was actually close.
And kind of storybook at the same time. Like that was like one of the biggest headlines of the weekend was Stafford playing his old
Well, there
team.
was a bunch of big.
Oh, yeah, there was a bunch of big
coming
ones,
in,
but-
you know.
But Goff and Stafford playing against one another in the playoffs, and Goff leading Detroit to the first playoff win in 33 years.
30 years. 30 years
I
to
thought
the
it was
butt.
91. 92 was our last one. Yeah,
No,
91.
it's not.
91 season, 92 was our
I
last
thought it was
playoff.
93. It was our first home game since 30 years.
Yeah, there it is. That's what it was. Yeah, well, we'll kick off with the first game. So, Browns, Houston. No Flacco magic this time. Houston just pretty much.
It was all CJ.
Yeah, they threw the Browns in the doghouse and then just beat the shit.
If you'd have told me that Houston's defense would play better than Cleveland's defense, I would have laughed in your face.
Yeah, I thought it was funny, you know, leading defensive player of the year candidate, or one of them, Myles Garrett, he was basically not doing shit. Had as many sacks as TJ Watt had this Sunday, and TJ didn't even fucking play, so
We know.
yeah, we know. Yeah, it was I'll tell you what, if Houston can keep rolling like that on offense and the defense is just a shell of itself what it was versus the Browns, they got a shot to beat Baltimore, that's for sure.
Yeah, Baltimore taking 2 weeks off. I don't know if that's going to be good or bad for them.
Well, we know what happened last time that happened. They took 2 weeks off and they lost. And I'll tell you what, Houston beats if Houston somehow beats Baltimore, and makes it to an AFC Championship, you might as well gift wrap Coach of the Year to D'Amico Ryans.
Yeah.
Hands down, 1,000%.
And CJ Stroud, he's already got Rookie of the Year, I think.
It just hurts because Puka literally breaking 2 records.
Yeah.
Not to say that Stroud didn't. He broke like he led the league in passing yards per game. If he didn't get hurt, probably would have led the league in passing yards, which
Which was another shock this year that nobody broke 5,000. Considering the last couple of years, there's been a handful that go over it.
But that was kind of the whole deal with why people were saying about the MVP vote. No quarterback's really put himself above and beyond the rest. and it's just it is what it is.
And the only one that did also led in turnovers. So it's like,
They had the stat in the Buccaneer game that Baker was one of 9 quarterbacks to play all 17 games.
Yeah.
well, and they showed that stat, and pretty much every quarterback who started every single game was in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's
And that's a pretty important fact where people overlook, and they don't overlook the quarterback
Quarterback
position, but they look
big.
how important it is. Like if you have just one quarterback all season, your odds of making the playoffs are just that much more likely. If you have a rotating carousel of quarterbacks,
Well, unless that person sucks, like Bryce Young.
well, I mean, to be fair, Bryce Young might have started every game, but yeah, he was terrible.
Yeah.
That's one of those where we can get to that whole team scenario eventually.
Yeah.
But
But yeah, Browns Houston. It was. I just thought the Browns were going to put up a little bit more of a fight. They did, like I said, they ran out of Joe Flacco magic. We'll see what happens next year with them and Deshaun Watson. Hopefully, Nick Chubb comes back and is able to play. They might do something a little bit in the wide receiver room as well to help Amari Cooper out.
I just hated that CJ couldn't break the touchdown record in a game by a rookie. He was one short. He tied it, and then they pulled him because it's like you were up by a lot.
No point in getting hurt.
No,
All
exactly.
seeing every other person leave them in, and we all know what happens. Not when you're trying to make a Super Bowl.
Not when you're in the playoffs and you have another game the next week. Like doesn't matter how much you win by this week.
Yeah.
You're still playing.
You don't
next
get
week.
bonus points.
Yeah, there's no bonus points. This isn't college.
the Browns defense showing up like Manti Te'o's girlfriend.
Yeah, non-existent. And then Miami, Kansas City kind of fell the way we all thought it was going to fall.
Except all the field goals. That was Harrison Butker.
I mean, yeah, Harris Butker really did his work. And Mahomes and them, he played good enough football. And finally, they had a guy step up outside of Travis Kelce. Rashid Rice went for like
Rashid
130 yards
Yeah.
on 8 catches.
He did. And it hurts, because, I said it last week, I wasn't expecting us to win. With all the defense players we were missing, and we weren't even sure if Holland or Howard were going to play, and they didn't. So
Yeah.
it's like, basically the only starters we had were our 2 interior linemen and
Well,
Ramsey.
and you know
That's
what?
pretty
That's
good.
something for the defense, but the fact is your offense was pretty much held.
Oh, yeah. Well, and
And-
it didn't help that you run the ball 17 times in a game where the temperature was -6.
But the other thing
17 rushing
But
yards.
the other thing was that you're dealing with, whether they've never really been played in before. Coop's first playoff game. And
That one made
a
me more
kid
so.
from Hawaii went to school in Alabama, plays for the Miami Dolphins. He's never seen ice before. And you can definitely tell it affected him in his throws.
Oh, we played in Buffalo last year when it was
Patrick Mahomes had way more zip on the ball. Tua was basically floating him in there, and that's really and that threw off the timing for your receivers because if Tua's zipping them in there, I believe it's a closer game. You're going to get a lot more catches in. But there were times he was just floating it in there, and Kansas City was able to just break in on him, and he had a bad game, and unfortunately it came in the playoffs.
I think it was more so the play calling, I think, is what was the worst. When you run 2 or 3 screens in a row, not separate, back to back to back, and it's 3rd and 10 when you run the third one.
Well, the reason why
What do you
you run
expect
the
to happen?
screen is because if you're having trouble not getting the run off, it helps set up the pass later. But really, it can't. You were right in the coach. The reason why Miami lost, 2 things: they got out coached, and they got out quarterbacked.
Yep.
The better quarterback did the best, and again, Mike McDaniel's he's had some playoff experience, but it's when you're going up against a guy like Andy Reid, who's basically lived in the playoffs, proves he can do it time and time again. Kansas City's built for playoff football. Don't matter how they get there, but somehow they are just able to boom, boom, boom.
Yep.
And like I said, don't get me wrong, it was freezing. Do I think if it was not
If we were
as
able to
cold,
win.
would it have been a little better? It just all depends. Like you said, you were so banged up on defense.
Yeah. I didn't think, even if we played in Miami for that game, with the amount of defensive starters we were missing,
it was going to be tough.
Yeah, because the first time around we played and we didn't have near the injuries, and it was still a really close game. But you take away all those defensive players, you take away 3 players from our defensive line that added up to almost 30 sacks. That's a pretty big piece you're missing from defense.
Yeah, when you don't get pass rush on the quarterback and you get Patrick Mahomes time, he can make anything.
Yes.
Sign every single pass.
Yeah, we literally signed like every top pass rusher from free agency. There were some Houston did it right. He had some pressures, and there was a huge holding call that was missed on the one where they called the late hit on Wilkinson because he chest bumped him, and I'm like,
you gotta learn who you're playing.
Yeah.
You're playing the new Tom Brady, and if you fart on him wrong, that's gonna be
it's getting a super soft league. But the fact that they didn't call the hold, where Houston was literally bear hugged the whole way there, and then they call the rough in the passer. I'm like, if you're gonna call one and not the other, but if you just don't call both, fine.
It's how
I was like, but they should have called both.
The league works.
Yeah, and it was just, but I didn't expect us to win that game anyways.
Yeah.
And the fact that there was only 3 touchdowns scored, and the second one from Kansas City came late in the game, it was basically a bunch of field goals. Like, the game was close all the way up until halfway through the fourth when they scored that last touchdown. Then it was pretty much out of reach there because we were down by 9, I think, most of the game, which is not completely out of reach. It was just...
It's not terrible, but unfortunately just your offense.
Yeah, well, and the play calling was terrible. It's like we went downfield a couple times, and we connected on a few of those. Tyreek went for a touchdown on one, and then they stopped throwing the ball downfield. It was all short screens, throwing it to the tight end because Smythe got a lot of targets. Tua had like 25 pass attempts. He was like 19 of 25, I think, or something like that.
Yeah,
and it was like, it's all short because he only had 199 yards. Why go away from your game plan that's worked all year? Yeah, it's cold, but he proved he could throw deep. Mahomes was able to throw deep, which everybody was shocked by that because of the weather, which there were a lot of drop passes by both teams because Kelsey had like, 5 in the first half.
It was crazy the amount of times that ball was dropped. Yet somehow
But you could tell that the ball was hard as a rock. You could tell by the kicks. I mean, both teams had kickoffs that didn't go anywhere. I thought the very first one of the game was going to go out of bounds because it barely went anywhere.
Yeah.
And even the kicker balls are separate.
Yeah.
So, like, you know they're hard. They've got a better chance kicking a lamp.
Yeah. I think only 2 of the kickoffs even went for touchbacks. The rest of them were just died on like the 20-yard line, or they were squibbed, and I don't think they were intentionally trying
regardless, we all know that the conditions were going to play a factor.
Oh yeah, it was terrible.
And it definitely showed in a team that's used to playing in that sort of weather, or something kind of like it.
Yeah.
Because
the only time we play in that weather is against all 3 of our teams in the division if we play at the end of the year.
Home field advantage.
Yep.
Yeah, now it really makes you think about how you really getting that.
Well, I'm sure Kansas City would rather warmer weather for their home field advantage too.
Oh yeah.
Because that game, when I saw Andy Reid's mustache frozen, I'm like, those icicles, and then the commentator pointed out, and I was like,
Randy Reid's frozen mustache, one of the grossest things that you have to deal with.
It just looked like a
in the
snotty
NFL
mustache.
playoffs. It was terrible. And then Patrick Mahomes' cracked helmet. Never seen that.
Yeah, because we said we were texting each other, and I'm like, he's still on the field. I'm like, that blows my mind that they haven't pulled him off. Like, how did they not notice this giant black hole?
A giant chunk out of the head.
It took 2 plays before they stopped.
2 plays, yeah. So yeah,
I'm like, that's gotta be dangerous for like.
Well,
Imagine a defensive player going for a tackle and getting his hand stuck.
That just showed how cold it was.
Oh yeah.
That literally it made a pristine football helmet that they invest millions of dollars in to make sure it's safe just crack. And that's how
it was a hard hit, but if people were complaining that it should have been a penalty, I'm like, Patrick Mahomes is a runner there, and he lowered his head. The defensive player was waiting on him to make the tackle. He didn't lower his head and initiate the tackle. I was like, so there's not much you could do either way there. But it was just the way both of them hit. It was surprised there wasn't more of that, to be honest.
Yeah,
go
ahead.
I think on that one, I think Patrick needs to come off the field for a play.
Well, what's his name from New York said that's in the rules. He's supposed to come off the field, or they have to waste a timeout, and the refs gave them a free one.
Because that's an equipment. Issue.
Again, you know how it is with the league, and and the Chiefs are the new thing. But yeah, for the Saturday games, not too bad. All right, so back to it with the Sunday games. Let's just get to the main one that is just hilarious, and I'll say it first. How about them Cowboys? They suck.
What Cowboys? All you Cowboy fans will complain and be like, we only lost by 16. Yeah, you scored 16 points on the backup.
Yeah, garbage time touchdowns don't count. You guys technically got blown out.
48-16 with 10 minutes.
And I tell you what, I had a smile on my face the whole way. When it came out and it was like 27 to, I think, 7 at the half, I was just ear to ear grin.
And they scored that touchdown right at halftime, didn't they?
Right at halftime. Yeah, they got it right at the end with
it was
Jake Ferguson. Yeah, it was bad. And I mean, nothing brings me more joy than the Cowboys getting knocked out of the playoffs. Every year it happens whenever there's so much hope.
Them and the
legs
Patriots.
get swapped up on it. Well, I don't got to worry about the Patriots
Yeah,
too
no.
much now. Now I just worry about the Cowboys and, to be honest, San Francisco too, because I want the Steelers and I guess New England to be the only ones that have 6. So one piece of the puzzle down, one more to go, and guess what? They got to go and they got to burst Green Bay on the road again. Let's see what happens. But yeah, Jordan Love played fantastic. Aaron Jones did amazing. They did what they needed to do to beat Dallas. And once again, another defensive player of the year candidate on the top tier defense. Oh, he didn't show up. I think 2 tackles.
He got 2 holding calls though.
Yeah. Regardless,
Progress.
did nothing.
And one of the holding calls, I was like, that's ticky tacky. I was like, because people were going to complain he didn't get one all year, and I was like, he was being blocked. And he tried cutting direction. All of a sudden, the offensive lineman let go. Just was like half a second.
Yeah, it's one of those quickies.
Yeah, it was one of those quick ones. It's like,
But now I do like that both of Cleveland and Dallas lost, because now it's like, okay, these top tier defenses lost, and the top players on these top defenses didn't do jack shit. So we'll see what happens when Defense Player of the Year comes around. Odds are they're still going to screw TJ out of it because, got to give it to someone else. The thing is, they
go to Fred Warner.
the thing is, they put the bar so high on TJ to where they're like, oh, we expect him to get 18, 19 sacks. And then your bar is lower on Micah Parsons and Myles Garrett. If your standard is higher for another player than these other two, I believe that's your defensive player of the year where you put the standard.
Give to Khalil Mack.
To be honest, it should be TJ Watt and Khalil Mack right there, right behind him. The numbers are insurmountable.
Aaron Donald was a good game.
Fuck no, he didn't.
He was thinking
this
it.
year.
He's like, he's going to retire. Let's just give him one more before.
Yeah, okay. But
Just give it to Deron Bland and call it a day.
But yeah, that Dallas defense definitely just didn't show up. Bad look for Dan Quinn, because he's gonna have to explain that in interviews. But that also makes me think. I'm wondering if maybe he didn't call that great of a game because he knew he was going to be getting head coach up. Now he gets to head out to the coaching interviews a little bit earlier.
And people are calling for McCarthy's job too.
Well, the problem, it's the same thing. The National Football. The National Football League is, what have you done for me lately? And don't get me wrong, Jerry Jones is the general manager and he's who brings the players in, but it's about who's calling the plays and stuff like that too. And unfortunately for Mike, the offense, did fine, but then what happened? Came clutch time. Jerry Jones can't buy them a clutch gene for them to figure it out. Same with the defense. Defense just was non-existent.
When we found on the offensive side, I don't think it was necessarily the play calling. They just Dak and CeeDee Lamb in the first quarter just couldn't hook up. Passes.
What happened is playoff Dak showed up. Playoff Dak is different than regular season.
There were 1 or 2 passes that he had to CeeDee Lamb that Lamb 9 times out of 10 catches that hit him in the hands and he dropped it.
But again, that's where it comes down to their choking factor. That's what Dallas has been doing year in, year out. I'm so glad you can beat the Giants and the Commanders, by 40 points and say, oh, we're top tier, we know how to do it. But the second they played a good team, what happened? Downhill. And that's been their MO. So I get if they want to move on from Mike McCarthy because, you know what, if you want to win us 12, 13 games a year, that's perfectly fine. But then we get knocked out of the playoffs in the first round. Like, what are we doing here? So you got to bring someone in who knows how to win in the playoffs.
Sounds like Buffalo.
Go sit at home with Marty Schottenheimer.
Buffalo enters.
Yeah.
Buffalo enters the league every year as potential Super Bowl favorites, and it's like, guys, you lose in the playoffs every year.
But they at least sometimes make it to divisional round, an AFC championship game. Dallas has been knocked out in the first round the past 3 times. So, regardless. Either way, if that's your continuous streak, you have to get out of it. And now other people are saying, like, blow up the whole thing. Get rid of Dak, get rid of McCarthy, get rid of Dan Quinn. Well, Dan Quinn's probably gone. He's going to get a head coaching job somewhere. He'll have to explain this last game in interviews, but he'll be able to work his way around it. And Dallas is a very intriguing job.
Harbaugh.
I'm not saying yes. I'm not saying no.
The issue is it still comes down to Jerry Jones, and he always clashes with coaches that like to have full control, like Belichick, like a Harbaugh.
What led to Jimmy Johnson?
Exactly. So it's
But
it's a very appealing
but
job.
Jimmy Johnson got that ring.
He did.
Oh, yeah.
That's the
Don't get me wrong.
difference.
Dallas is a very
Yeah, they're the
appealing
same
job
size.
for any coach. They would love to have it, but you have that Jerry Jones factor.
Yeah, but
There's other jobs out there that
but
are more appealing.
regardless,
Jerry Jones.
Jerry's getting too old, and I think he's close enough to where he might change his ways a little bit because it has been working for the past 30 years, whatever you've been doing. So, in my eyes, you probably dump McCarthy, you grab one of these big name dudes to come in and show out, and just rebuild the whole coaching staff because it's just not working when it comes to the playoff time. You're in a soft enough division where, you know, Washington and New York Giants can't figure it out. And the Eagles, I think we've seen the last little bit of them shoot downhill, you know, depending on how if they're able to reboot the roster again.
I think Toronto might be going too.
But my thing is you're only fighting one team in your division. So your division is pretty much winnable every year. And and guess what? That gets you in the playoffs. But you got to be able to win in the playoffs. You don't win in the playoffs, what's the point?
Yep.
So, and like I said, Green Bay, they played great ball. Aaron Jones ran for another 100-plus yards.
Plus, we said
Somehow he's able to run for
playing
3 TDs, but God forbid he does it during the fantasy season.
Be fair though, Jordan Love set him up for pretty much all those touchdowns. Like he had quite a few. I think the first one was he was tackling the 1 yard.
They played it great. They had a good scheme. Aaron Jones running, couple dink and dunks, and then sure enough,
A big play.
they catch him in his own defense. Deep play to Romeo Doubs over the middle. It just happened. Boom, boom, boom. That was the sequence, and Dallas just wasn't recognizing
Just
it.
forgetting receivers running down the field.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Jordy Nelson.
And then what was it? Wicks. He caught that one.
Wicks
It
caught one.
looked like Jordan Love was throwing
And
the ball
Musgraves
away.
was wide open too.
And then
yeah.
Wicks popped up out of nowhere and caught it. And I'm like, I thought he was throwing out the back.
Well,
and he just
well,
popped
the
it.
other thing is, Green Bay had a lot of young guys show up. They came to play during the playoffs, and that's what's required.
Aren't they the youngest team in the NFL?
They are the youngest
Yeah, I was
team
gonna
in
say.
the
So
NFL.
they have a lot to look forward to because Watson, it's only his third year.
Watson's second year.
Yeah. So
Jalen Reed's first year. Aaron Jones is basically the vet on that.
I was gonna say
team.
he's basically the oldest. He's what in year 6 or 7?
He's no, I want to say like 4 or 5.
Is he? I thought he was in there just like a little bit more than that. But
Yeah.
still, he's still pretty young for a running back. He's still got a good 4 years left easily.
Yeah, and I'm guessing right now they believe Jordan Love is the answer. We don't know yet. Let's see. Let's see how that second year progression goes. We
Yeah, 'cause this year he had some games where it was questionable, and then he had games where it's like, you could be-
starting out in
Yes,
the first 8 weeks they were 2-6.
They were ready to give up on it.
Yeah, they were ready to toss him, and they were like, "Look, he's got to show he can do it in these final games," and he did.
And it seemed like they almost just opened the playbook and they're like, here, just go at it.
Yeah.
And he started lighting it up, and like we said, coming to the close at the end of the year, Green Bay one of those teams to be dangerous because they started playing really well late, and they are young, and for the most part, it seems like the injuries haven't really affected them.
No, not
So
too much.
because they're so young, it's like that's
But
the only
like-
thing that,
but-
that could be a disadvantage though, is because
it could be.
they're so young, they don't have that experience. But at the same time, they're a wild card because they're young.
Well,
reckless. They don't
here's
have
the deal.
anything- they're playing just for fun right
They're
now.
playing with house money.
Yeah,
I was gonna
exactly.
say,
It's going to be the same
It's-
thing going with going against San Fran, a team you're not expected to beat. So pretty much go balls to the wall. No one's expecting you to be there. That's
Same
the,
with
that's
Houston.
the point of
Houston
the
and Green
7th
Bay,
seed.
I think, are the same on both sides. They can be dangerous. They're young teams, and they're playing because they're like, no one expected us to do this year, so
Go for broke.
just go for broke. Basically, like we're not. It's not the long game for us right now because we're doing better than people expected us to with 2 young quarterbacks.
Yeah, I like it. And then the next game, Rams Lions, the only game that was even remotely worth watching the whole way through.
Yep.
Jared Goff played great. The whole Lions offense played great defense. A little sloppy versus Matt Stafford and Puka Nakua. They really had trouble covering him, but apparently everyone does.
Yeah.
And he's not a speedy guy either.
But they were able to
And he's
shut
returned.
down Kyron Williams, and
Yeah.
in the end, the defense showed up enough, made some sacks, made some plays. And if they can keep the offense rolling like this, if that defense can shore up just a little bit, I think they definitely are going to make their way at least to the NFC Championship.
Well, they started getting people involved that they've had their moments this year, but like Reynolds, I mean, he's been hit or miss all year. He really didn't step up until Brown got hurt. St. Brown got hurt, and then this week it was like both of them were going off.
Well, it was also a revenge game for Reynolds as well.
Yeah, because his old team, and he was playing hard. You could tell. A couple of those, I think the reverse he had, he broke a big one. He was just running with that like mindset that he was there to prove something.
Well, I mean, like I said, their main four showed out. Gibbs, Montgomery,
Laporta surprisingly showed up and played.
Laporta was able to play, which was great.
I didn't think he was.
I didn't think he was going to either. He showed up, and then St. Brown did his thing. So if you get all four of those guys flowing in on the same page, and Jared Goff's not making mistakes like throwing picks or dumb throws, then the offense
and your defense steps up and
is a
takes away
monster.
one part of the Rams game. Like they didn't take away the passing game because that's kind of hard with all the weapons they got, but they took away Kyron Williams, and that was what we said. That was going to be a big part of the Rams is if Kyron Williams gets going, it's going to be hard to stop him, and they shut him down.
Well, for the Lions, their main thing is the defense just
slows you down a little bit.
Hold you down a hair.
Yep.
Just enough so that offense is able to just keep scoring on 4-5 straight drives, and then it can settle out.
Yep.
And that's what they were able to do, so they're going to go in and
Got one more home game at least.
Yeah, one more home game versus Tampa Bay. You know, Philly, Tampa Bay. We all called it. We thought just Philly was pretty much dead in the water, and it showed. They couldn't handle that receiving core. Baker
Even with all the drops.
Baker playing like a number one overall pick again.
It was.
You know, maybe just need a change of scenery. Somehow when you wear that Browns orange, it fits on you weird. Same with, Panthers and Rams. But
I think it was him getting traded from Cleveland because Cleveland was his. Nobody there was really fighting for his spot. They were just like, it's your job.
Yeah.
There's no one here to fight for. And then when they finally got rid of him, he's like, all right, now I have to play for my job. So
now he had something to prove.
Yeah, exactly.
He's got that chip. But he's always been that player that's had that chip.
But when he was in Cleveland, that chip wasn't as big.
It wasn't as big because he was the number one overall pick, so he was projected to be the guy. In Carolina, you're dealing with a squad that wasn't that great.
It's Carolina.
Yeah. And then you get picked up by the Rams, just kind of get yourself back into gear. But with Tampa Bay, it's the best roster he's had probably his entire career. You got a defensive-minded head coach. He's not really squabbling with you on the offensive side.
No, that Cleveland roster was pretty stacked when he was there.
He also played pretty well in Cleveland.
Yeah,
he played well enough, but not like the number one overall.
Cleveland just wants a Super Bowl immediately from whoever they pick.
Because we always said that on paper, Cleveland should be winning like every game when they were there, defensive-wise, offensive-wise.
Regardless, though, if you're the number one overall pick, you have higher expectations, and you're like the number 22 pick with Brandon Wheaton, all those years ago. They weren't expecting him to lead them to the promised land. But when you're the number one overall pick, Heisman winner, you got that swag, you beat out all these other guys. They're expecting you to do something within a small amount of time. Kind of like how Joe Burrow did it, second year got Cincy to a Super Bowl. And that's how it goes now if you're the number one overall pick. Caleb Williams are going to be expecting that out of him within at least 2 years. I'm not saying the first year, but at least 2 to 3. If he doesn't get it done by year 3, he'll be shipped out as well. But, we basically saw the downfall of Philly. They had a nice small window where it was great. Jason Kelce just announced he's retiring, so now they got a big hole to fill on the leadership side of the ball.
And they have a lot of free agents this year.
They do.
The list, and it's pretty lengthy.
It's palpable, yeah. And you're paying Jalen Hurts all that money, so somewhere it's got to take a hit. But they really got to fix that second and third level in the defense too. That secondary's trash. Middle linebackers are trash. Their front four is great. They can definitely handle that, but there's 11 positions on defense, and if 7 of them ain't working, you're gonna be vulnerable and lose all the time. So we'll see if they can get together. Howie Roseman, he knows how to put a squad together. He knows how to draft well. And we'll see. They'll make some money moves and maybe try to bring someone big in for this and that. Maybe Jalen Hurts restructures the contract. But, I mean, the writing was on the wall for the past 2 months that Philly was going to lose this game, unfortunately. And that's how it goes.
Yeah. Even with all the drops that Tampa Bay had, there was quite a few.
Oh, yeah, the game could have been a lot worse if they...
Because Evans dropped 2 for sure touchdowns.
Oh, yeah. And he got overthrown on 1.
Wouldn't be surprised to see Sirianni gone in a couple of days.
Yeah, that's what I said. I was like,
I
and it wouldn't hurt our feelings because I've never really liked him as a coach. He's the epitome of a Philadelphia fan as a coach.
But that's what Philly likes. And I mean, I understand, but for me, I don't blame him as the coach. I blame the new coordinators they brought in. They lost their OC and their DC. Both got head coaching jobs off, one to Arizona, and then the other guy went to the Colts. Almost made them into a playoff team. So I think if they keep Sirianni as head coach, bring in an OC with some fresh ideas, able to really kind of try to figure it out, get the offense back to the way it was a year ago instead of this lackluster one, I think they can come back and do it because they got enough pieces to make it happen. And like I said, they're really only fighting the Cowboys for their division at this moment in time. So the window, it's closing, but it's not completely shut.
How about the tush push getting stopped too?
Yeah, it's rare to see it.
On a face mask.
Yeah, on a face mask.
Well, to be fair, he grabbed like the bottom of the helmet.
That still
counts as a face mask, apparently.
In the rule book.
Yeah, but yeah,
I've seen him in headlocks.
Because if you get under the face mask in the the.
Oh, I didn't see him grab it there. I saw him grab like the back of the helmet. Like,
no,
right there.
once you see it, you can see him get underneath.
Yes. I just saw what looked like the back.
But regardless, and again, we don't know how they're going to.
Still stops.
Yeah,
Still stop. Yeah.
Still stop. Still
like him doing that. That was kind of like an unnecessary part because even if he wasn't doing that, he wasn't scoring. He was.
No, I don't think so.
He was already turning the opposite direction before that even happened.
Yeah. And then finally, the game I was dreading. I was happy about it for a little bit until the New York governor, Kathy Holcomb, decided to bring her fat ass in there and get involved, saying like, the snow's it's not safe enough for people to show up. Let's cancel the game and make it in pristine conditions for Josh Allen to do his thing to beat us. I'll put it to you like this. If they played on Saturday in that snowstorm, Josh Allen ain't rushing for a 52-yard touchdown.
On Sunday.
Whatever. And he ain't throwing bombs to his tight ends over the middle. That's all I'm saying. And they knew that. That's why Kathy Holcomb was already on the phone to the NFL on Thursday saying, like, it's not safe. I know this. They put me in charge of this. I got voted in. It's not safe. We're changing. But
just like last year when they waited last minute to leave and they're like, you can't fly out, storms here. And it's like, yeah, no shit. You knew it was coming. You should have left on Friday, but you waited till Saturday.
But again, the NFL but the NFL does have an agenda. They want certain teams in, and they do what they can to make it happen. And they definitely want Buffalo in more than they want Pittsburgh. But that's not to say Pittsburgh wasn't at fault. Two things happened that didn't need to happen. One, you turned over the ball in a game where finally Josh Allen has 0 turnovers. I'm talking no fumbles whatsoever.
And no
interceptions. And then 2, you didn't keep him in the pocket.
No.
You let him run, and your tackling was piss poor. On 2 touchdowns, you basically just tried to head tackle people, and that's not going to work. The defense definitely was lackluster. Not having TJ Watt showed. I think they did get 2 sacks on Josh Allen, but other than that, he wasn't pressured at all. He was able to throw in there. And when you have TJ Watt there as a presence, guess what? He's gonna draw a double team more times than not, which means someone else is gonna be able to get up in there and defend or play back and act as that spy or that secondary person to prevent some of those throws. So definitely not having him didn't help. And also the offense, just, they had a couple fumbles early. Mason had the late pick in the end zone. That killed you too. Basically a 14-point swing. And basically the first half is what killed Pittsburgh, which is what it always happens. They just they let so much happen in the first half, they can't come back in the second. Other than that, though, I liked what they were doing. I don't know what they're going to do next year in regards to the quarterback position. I know Mitch is out the door. That one's an obvious one. But if they stick with Kenny, maybe they ride Mason some, or maybe they grab a new quarterback that fits the bill more of kind of like what
Whoever
Mason.
the OC is, it's gonna
Yeah, wherever the OC is, or you grab a younger quarterback, like Mason Rudolph, who's more of a pocket passer, instead of a running guy, a little bit bigger body, the more typical pro quarterback type.
I mean, he plays okay as long as he's not getting hit with a helmet.
Yeah. But
during the play or after the play.
yeah, and you know what? He did fine. Were there some mistakes? Yeah, sure, but the offense kind of screwed up on all parts.
Well, we know for that game, like you said, the NFL wants certain things, and it's like Buffalo is the girl next door. The Steelers are the girl down the street that gets the job done, but it's not your first choice.
Yeah. They're not a part of the narrative right now.
They're not.
It's Kansas City, it's Buffalo, it's San Fran, and Dallas. Those are the teams they want, and Baltimore somehow sneaks in there too. But they don't want a rough and tumble
Do you think
team.
Baltimore sneaks in?
No, I'm saying sneaks into the conversation of being like the face of the NFL.
It's like Buffalo didn't. I mean, Baltimore.
No. But
They
with,
ran into the
with
playoffs.
Pittsburgh, they're like, look, they're always here. We like them, but they're not the 10 that's at the bar. They're that 5 that you're like, well, there's no one else here. I guess we'll bring them in. But if you have a shot to get at the 10, you're going to do whatever you can to make it happen.
They helped Tomlin get his winning record, and they're like, you get in the playoffs, but you're not going to be there next year. So,
Well, actually, Tomlin just said he is coming back. He confirmed he is coaching at least through 2024. Now, what happens after that? I don't know. Maybe they try to get a contract extension in. They speak it over with him. Maybe see how the draft goes. See how the
you
season
think they tell
progresses.
them to tank it and be like, look, just do your losing record. We'll get rid of you. We'll get a better draft pick, and we'll go on to the next coach.
No, they're not going to. Because the thing is, the Steelers are one good, great quarterback away from really being up in that
There's a
conversation.
lot of teams that are one good, great quarterback away from being really good. That's the hard part, is finding that good, great quarterback.
But if you
Falcons.
stacked
Good,
up
great quarterback
stacked up rosters though, the Steelers roster, at least on the offensive side, is
It's okay.
head and shoulders above some of these guys that are missing a quarterback, like even the Falcons.
I'd say the Falcons, if you don't count the quarterback, I like the Falcons offense better than y'all's.
Well, I'll put it to this. So you got Bijan, sure, pass catching back,
Algier.
can run. Yeah, and Algier, all right? When Najee Harris runs for 1,000 yards every year, Jalen Warren's coming on top right there. I think that's pretty matched up. Drake London for the Falcons, and then...
George Pickens.
No. I mean, who else for the Falcons?
Kyle Pitts.
No, wide receiver.
Uh,
Thank you. You took too long. That's right. They don't have another number 2. So you got George Pickens.
Is it great or something like that?
The fact you got to think about it means that they don't have a
But
better
no, I
wide
still
receiver.
would give you guys. I would give Atlanta the running back upper hand over you guys
How?
all day, every day.
Explain to me how.
If you give me the choice of Bijan and Algier versus Warren and
Najee Harris.
Najee Harris, I'm taking Bijan and Algier all day.
But why?
Because they both almost rushed for 1,000 yards this year, whereas what was Najee and Warren's total numbers rushing?
Najee went over 1,000.
Yeah, I know Najee did,
and
but what
Warren
Warren
was
did?
right there. Warren literally was second in the league in yards per carry at 5.3, right behind Christian.
And there was
McCaffrey.
plenty of games where Najee Harris was non-existent. Now, grant,
There were plenty of games where Bijan was.
but that comes down to he only got the ball 3 times, 4 times. How many times did you touch the ball against Carolina? Was it 4?
I don't know, but Bijan finished with 260 something touches total. So it wasn't like they weren't giving him the ball. But I would say that running back room is pretty even. And then when you go to the wide receiving room, outside of Drake London, they don't really have a solid wide receiving core. Here you got Pickens, Deontay Johnson, Allen Robinson as a vet, Calvin Austin coming in as a slot. They have people. And Pitts, sure, you can throw him in there as that guy, but Freiermuth is just as stable as a tight end. Is he as flashy? No.
Well, let me call Edwin, because I guarantee you he could name all the wide receivers for the team just like you named all of Pittsburgh. Because I can only name 2 of y'all's wide receivers. You're a Pittsburgh fan, though. We expect you to be able to name.
Okay,
All
but
of
how
them.
many Falcons wide receivers can you name?
I just said if I was a Falcons fan, I'd be able to name all of them.
you're not a Pittsburgh fan, but you're able to name 2 versus 1.
Yeah, I said the other guy.
There you go.
His name is like great. Or
It's
something like that.
because yeah, exactly. You got to think about it. It's because they don't have as great of a wide
To be
receiver.
fair, I had to think about y'all's because it's George Washington or George Pickens.
Yeah,
And then I had to think about who the other one was because I was like watching the game the other night and I'm like Pickens and I'm like, who the fuck is their other wide receiver?
It's Deontay Johnson.
And then I was like, oh, yeah, it's
who's
Deontay
been a
Johnson.
Pro Bowler, and again, and when it comes to the O line spot, I would probably roll with Pitts over Atlanta's just because their interior line isn't as great. They have better tackles, but their interior line hasn't been as much. But regardless of that, they are a quarterback away from being in the conversation of this team has a chance to go somewhere. Not just make the playoffs, but actually contest in the playoffs.
I think the Falcons are one quarterback away where they can win their division every year and not have to worry about it. You guys have a lot of competition.
Exactly, but that's what I'm saying.
The
It's
division was
easier.
9-8.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's easier to win the NFC
Well, we said
South.
that the
It's
NFC
harder.
divisions, we said that earlier. The AFC had a lot. There were a lot more tighter races for the divisions.
Oh, the AFC is far more superior than
Than
the
the
NFC.
yeah. There's like one or
by
two teams
far.
in the NFC that are just like set themselves apart. Where the AFC, it's like there's so many
It's a
teams
tight
that still have a
race
chance to win the
every
playoffs.
year.
Yeah.
Yeah, but regardless, like I said, if Pittsburgh can figure out the QB spot, keep everyone else happy, maybe get a little bit lucky in the draft again, fix that second corner spot because Patrick Peterson, great name to bring butts in the seats, but unfortunately, this isn't 10 years ago, Patrick Peterson.
Well, the best way for Pittsburgh to find a quarterback is throw a toga party, get a bunch of girls drunk, see which guy goes for the most.
Hey, allegedly.
In a bath. Allegedly.
Allegedly.
I feel like I also have to make an analogy here about Pittsburgh since we went with the handjob Harriet references. I'm going to go a little more wholesome with my reference. Pittsburgh is like chicken tenders. They're the solid choice at most every restaurant you go to. Are they the top of the menu? No, they're not. Are they the bottom of the menu? No, they're not.
But you know where to find them.
But they are the consistent every year. They're going to be right there.
They're like, if they're that thing, if you don't like what you see, you can always go to them.
And they're one sauce away from being best thing on the menu.
Being a banger. Yeah.
There you go.
I'm in full agreement.
There were no hand jobs in my reference.
And they have a shot. They have a shot to do it. There's a couple of names out there on the board. Are they willing to pay? I don't know. They might just run. Like I said, they might just
Is it
be.
their turn for Wessel?
He's supposedly on
Let
the.
him cook.
He's on the
I mean-
potential landing spot, but we'll see what happens.
I'd love to see those commercials if that happens. What are they going to say now?
But yeah, but again,
Same thing. Just
like I said,
That's right.
even though
You're right.
yeah, even though it was a 2-touchdown game near the end, a garbage time one, it was probably the
Y'all's
second.
game was very similar to ours.
It
where
was
close,
it was probably
but-
the second closest game out of the whole wild card series.
Yeah, because none of them were really that close.
Two mistakes in that game. If those are not made, then you're
right
you're
there.
in the middle of a
You're
competitive.
in
And we
the middle
said
of a competitive
Buffalo was
game.
one of those teams where we expected them to probably win this game, but with the quality of football they're playing right now, I don't see them taking too far of a dive into the playoffs just
Well,
because
if
they're not playing great.
but here's the deal: if Josh Allen is able to not turn the ball over,
They
then
can win.
They can win it all.
But we'll see next week against Kansas City. 'Cause that Kansas City defense is no joke.
But I looked it up. The last time he didn't have any turnovers in a single game was the London game versus Miami. And that's when he beat up on y'all 48-20.
Mhm.
So yeah, if he doesn't turn the ball over, shockingly enough, they're able to beat up on good teams. And unfortunately, we just happen to catch that next game. Now versus Kansas City, it's probably going to be a different ball game. He's probably going to make some mistakes. Probably going to at least one pick, maybe a fumble. We don't know. But
Over under?
over under, yeah, we'll see.
We'll go 2.
But we'll discuss that in a little bit.
Over under 2.
Yeah, we'll discuss that and
Or
when we
you gotta go
discuss
2.5.
the next
Because
one.
if you go 2, then it's like he hit 2, and it's like, yeah, it's over.
Yeah, you always got to go with
They always
that.
do that 2.5. What would you say? Over under 1.5.
I'd go. I'd
take the
I'd
over.
put it at 1.5, and I'd put the over.
I put the
I
over.
think
Yeah.
he gets a fumble in there.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think he goes over 1.5. Also, I think it's either
Yeah.
2 interceptions or it's an interception and a fumble.
And I'll also go total touchdowns. I will go 2.5.
I was gonna say 2.5 too because I think
And
he's
I
gonna get
will
3.
take the over.
Yeah, I think
2
3 is
pass and a
solid.
rush.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think that's solid numbers.
3
Well,
rushes.
but that's also with us not knowing what the weather's gonna be like yet.
Yeah, very true. Don't know
So,
what's going to
'cause
be
the
like
weather
in
could be-
Buffalo. Might
Could
be
similar to
crazy.
this week's.
Might be crazy, and then they got to move it down to Miami and play in nice weather just so everyone's fucking happy. But, yeah, we'll take a short break, and then we'll get into next week's games and pick our matchups. Can I get your number? Where's your boyfriend? Where your boyfriend? Is he coming back? Where your boyfriend at? Which one are they?
The shirt.
Ugh, God.
What do you mean? Which ones are they? It's these or none?
No, I thought there was another Mike and Ike's. What happened to the regular? Oh no, that's good and plenty. That'd
You
be
pissed off Mike and Ike.
that'd be
You
candy
Wait,
connoisseur.
you eat good and plenty?
No, I just remembered a purple box.
That was the
the
first,
hell
that was the
you
next thing. That was the first thing that
find
popped in my head, and I'm
good
like, "When the fuck have you ever had Good and Plenty?" So I'm like, "They're disgusting."
I want to try them now because I don't think I've ever had them. I just remember.
I personally don't think I have.
How are you still alive?
I'm supposed to. I think.
Oh god, they're awful.
I think they're the black licorice flavor. That's what they're supposed to taste like.
Which is already terrible. You
It
lose
is.
a bottom flavor.
You really did.
Very horrible.
They're like maybe people won't notice because they're white and purple.
People will notice.
They're like when people see black Twizzlers, they're like, "Yo,
I don't know.
They were probably made at a time where it was like, these are licorice flavored. And they were like, well, we don't know nothing else. We just,
it was."
we
Are
just
they
figured-
great? No, they're good.
They're good.
What's
Is
the black
there,
jelly?
is there a lot of them? There's plenty of them.
I remember the last time I ate a black jelly bean thinking it was a grape one because there was like they were both really dark and I just grabbed it and threw it in my mouth and I'm like,
Nope, just old.
it's disgusting.
No, it's just,
I don't have people
just
come
a
in.
50-year-old jelly bean.
I think that's what they are. They're just like these have been in the batch for a long time. Let's just throw them in a bag.
Throw
and
them
leave
in there. Put them in that booger. Put them in the booger one. We'll call it tar.
Oh god. My aunt and them play that game like every Christmas. They get jelly beans for Christmas.
Bean boozled.
That was one of my favorite videos I watched. Because this is either toasted marshmallow or stink bug. Stink bug!
Oh God. All right. So
We should do that for a video.
I'm sure we will.
Loser has to just randomly pick one because they're pretty gross.
We
I've had
can,
'em.
we can play Bean Boozled right here one day.
We can.
So the 4 games coming up, divisional round, some solid matchups. One surprise. So we'll see how that goes. So we'll start with the Green Bay San Fran game. I mean, you got to go with San Fran. Unfortunately, Christian McCaffrey's fully healthy. The squad's fully healthy. They're rested up. They're at home. Green Bay, I think, pretty much used all their luck versus Dallas to get in there, and Green Bay's going to have a nice, easy walk to the NFC Championship game.
No love for Green Bay.
No love for love. Sorry, I was going to wear my Favre jersey, but my Wranglers are in the dryer, so.
Is that Brett Favre?
Man's wearing Wranglers. I'm gonna go San Fran here as well. I think it'll be relatively close because I don't think Green Bay really plays that badly, unless Green Bay just comes out and says something that's gonna piss off Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk, because that team can be dangerous with a lot of weapons, especially if you upset them. So I'm hoping they don't do that. So because I'm really wanting close games. 'Cause we haven't really had that many.
No, not that many ones where you want to stay focused on the whole time. But we'll see.
I'm gonna go Green Bay. I'm gonna ride that magic. I think they continue it. The offense is looking good. We'll see. I think the weeks off just didn't necessarily help a lot of the teams. I'm not always a huge fan of teams taking off for a whole week. Sometimes it just throws your rhythm off. But when you have teams like Baltimore,
Well, they have to
and
take
San
off
Fran,
for a whole week because they got the bye.
well, they also rested their starters.
Yeah,
the
yeah,
following
they
week, too,
rested. So, but you know what? We've all seen San Fran, and they are vulnerable when they are
Yeah,
not
we've seen-
healthy.
yeah,
so
we've
if
seen
you're
both sides.
able to get them fully healthy, I don't think them being out of sync for 2 weeks is really going to be a big deal. I think Shanahan's probably running those practices nice and clean. Now, I bet you dollars to donuts that they were not thinking they were going to be versing Green Bay at the time, but
That's a lot of donuts.
yeah, it would be.
I don't
So
know where that expression come from.
I don't know. Is that his new go-to?
that's not my go-to. But yeah, so again, I gotta go with San Fran just because they are a powerhouse team and they're probably the number 1 team in the playoffs outside of Baltimore right now.
I think my money's still on Baltimore.
Yeah, well, speaking of Baltimore, Houston coming out and just, beating the bricks off Cleveland. It was a top-tier defense, supposedly. Now they're going up against Baltimore, the other top-tier defense in the AFC for sure. And you're going to be dealing with a little bit different type of quarterback, not Joey Flacco chilling in the pocket. You're going to have to be DeMeco Ryans going to have to completely 180 his game plan for Lamar Jackson and that Ravens squad. And Dalvin Cook's going to be making his playoff debut for them for sure. He's had a couple weeks in the system, able to learn it. I think that's going to play a little bit of a factor in there as well. And even though C.J. Stroud's playing great, Nico Collins is playing out of his mind. I think the killer for them is that their rushing attack just really hasn't been as great as it could be, so they're going to be relying a lot on C.J., and I think John Harbaugh and them are going to be able to plan that defense around that. So I'm going to go with Baltimore, and I don't think it'll be too close. I'll say double digits, but a low double digit, maybe 10 points.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Baltimore did get some good news. Mark Andrews did return to practice this week.
I did see that, yeah.
Which is a huge bonus for them. Isaiah likely has stepped up in the absence of Mark Andrews, but Mark Andrews is one of the foundations of their offense, and I think with the week off, with the bye, they've gotten healthy. They've been able to come together, and I don't see too many things stopping Baltimore unless it's maybe San Francisco in the Super Bowl. So I'm going rolling Baltimore.
Yeah, I think saying Baltimore with this time around, that defense is just CJ's going to be moving around a lot in that pocket with that defense up front that they have, and at the same time, Houston's defense looked good against Joe Flacco, but Joe Flacco's a pocket passer. We all know Lamar. If he doesn't see something,
it's a big difference when you got to leave someone out there for a spy.
And Lamar, it's you either spy him and he beats you with his arm, or you drop everybody back and then he beats you with his legs. So it's one of those where it's kind of hard to do both.
You're damned if you do, damned if you don't. You're
exactly.
and then if you decide to spy, you're gonna be dealing with a lot of man coverage, and OBJ, Rashad Bateman, Zay Flowers, they've been playing out of their minds. Isaiah Likely, they're doing what they're supposed to. They're not dropping passes. They're making the right catches.
Too.
Yeah,
he does his part when he needs to. He's a very overlooked part of that offense, I think. He when
especially
they get down there,
the goal line.
Yeah, I was to say when they get down there, he punches it in.
Yeah.
And I think Dalvin Cook, we talked about it when he went there. That could be one of those surprising, huge advantages that they have. That was a big addition for them, I think, with them really lacking in the run game for depth.
Yeah.
Running backs just get hurt.
Yeah.
It's not that they don't have depth. That
they just keep getting hurt.
Also gets hurt.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, they had depth, but I'm talking about right now in the playoffs, they don't really have depth because all of them are hurt.
Just go into next year with 7 running backs on the roster.
Oh, they will. But it seems like we're all in agreement that Baltimore is going to take it down. And I think a lot of people would agree with that.
I just hated that Houston has to play them now. They've got to play somebody else. They could have potentially met Baltimore in the AFC Championship game. Because I think they could beat the other two teams. They could have beat Buffalo or Kansas City.
They should have won a few more games, and they could have been a higher seed. That's on them. Now we're getting to the games that are going to be, I feel like, a little bit tighter. Lions, Tampa Bay. Baker's been playing, top-tier football. So is Jared Goff. Both offenses are very potent. Both defenses, they have their pros, but when they're playing bad, it's not good for the offensive side of the ball. It's a toughie because I think it really depends on whose quarterback shows up. If we've seen Jared Goff at his worst, and that's when the Lions falter, and when Baker just isn't able to get in rhythm, then Tampa Bay falters. I think Lions have the better defense, not by much, but just enough. Even though Todd Bowles and them have more experience in the playoffs with coaching, Dan Campbell is just a guy that is risk-reward, and he'll take risk every time. And I think that might actually help them for this game. I'm going to go with the Lions, but I think it's going to be closer than what people think. I'll say one-score game.
Yeah, I agree with it being a close game. We just watched Todd Bowles thoroughly outcoach Nick Sirianni,
Oh yeah, for sure.
and I see them roll with that going into next week and playing against Detroit. I see them having more conservative calls where I think Dan Campbell will take a lot of those risks. I think he does. I think he takes a few too many in this game, and I think that Tampa Bay ends up taking it due to maybe one or two bad decisions.
Okay, I respect that.
Yeah, this is, like you said, this is kind of a tough one because Tampa Bay's playing really good football right now, but so is Detroit, and it's in Detroit. I think I got to go Detroit too. Being a home game, they have a lot on their side with that fan base,
Yeah.
and I think it's just.
The fan base is hungry.
The
They're
fan base
hungry
is
for an
hungry.
And I
NFC
think-
championship.
I think
and a
Goff
Super
really
Bowl
fed off
appearance.
of that in this last game. I think
He
he
did.
really did, and I think it's going to continue this time around. And granted, Tampa Bay looked good against Philly, but Philly was lackluster.
Philly's
They
defense
weren't
has
there.
been very bottom of the pack
And their
in the
offense
past
wasn't
2 months.
flashy. Well, they
Yeah.
were short. AJ Brown, Devontae Smith did his thing, but they were short. And with Detroit, they have a lot of people that can make big plays. So it's
Yeah.
2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, a tight end.
Yeah,
I mean-
like I said, it's whoever's quarterback can play the best and which defense can have the more impactful.
Yeah,
plays.
I think whichever defense gets one or two stops.
Yeah,
will really go.
whoever wins the turnover battle is going to take this one
Yeah.
home. But like I said, it'll be close. And then finally, the game everyone's waiting for: Kansas City Bills, Patty Mahomes, Josh Allen meeting in the playoffs again. Not an AFC Championship on the line, but the chance to get to one. Is it the time where Josh Allen finally gets over the hump of Patrick Mahomes and gets his way in? Or do they sneak into the 6th straight AFC Championship? Who knows? Teeter-totter. It's at Buffalo. Don't know what the conditions are going to be like you said.
Mhm.
They're playing great football. But, again, you got Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid in the playoffs.
And arguably the best defense Kansas City's had in a
And the
long
best
time.
defense they've had. I think if that receiving core can step up like they did this
With
past week,
Mhm.
and I'm not even saying you got to match it. I'm just saying you got to if you can be 75% that, Josh Allen's going to turn the ball over at least twice. And I think Kansas City will take it. It will be close like it always is because the NFL wants a good game. But Kansas City's going to pull it out. They'll make another AFC Championship game. And we'll see where it goes from there.
Kadarius Toney is a player that plays on the Kansas City Chiefs. He won't do anything, but it's not in me to bet against Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. Even though if they happen to lose this game, they'll be like, oh well, he didn't really have that many receivers. Sure, whatever. But I can't bet against Mahomes and Andy Reid.
Not this time around, anyways.
Yeah.
If they're playing Baltimore, I'd bet against them.
Well,
But yeah, I think I'd go Patrick Mahomes as well. I think the defense is what's going to make the difference in this one. I think they really put the pressure on Josh Allen because that defense is pretty good, and people overlook it because it's Patrick Mahomes' his team. They just say, "Oh, they're winning because Patrick Mahomes is like." No, they have a top 5 defense.
yeah.
It's one of the reasons why they're winning a lot of their games.
Well, they're going to do fine because, Chris Jones just a menace rushing the ball. They got Trent McDuffie.
Defense
in
does
the
what they do, and they
slot.
stop the other team, and Patrick Mahomes is gonna put up. You can't
George
stop that offense
Karlaftis.
completely.
Yeah. But like Kansas City, they got, some all pros on there, some Pro Bowlers in the defense, and I think it's a better defense than what Buffalo's been playing against more recently. Like, again, even versus Pitt, outside of 2 or 3 big plays, Josh Allen was kind of lackluster.
Well, against us at the end of the season, he didn't really do much, and we were missing 10 starters.
Yeah, so I think if you put him up against a top tier defense, even though he is at home, it's kind of like how Tom Brady was to Pittsburgh. You gotta get they're that one speed bump to keep you from going from good to great, and I just don't think it's gonna happen. Yeah. But yeah, some good games coming up. I'm excited for all of them. We'll see what happens. Hopefully, maybe there's a surprise. I mean, don't get me wrong. If Green Bay beats San Fran, I'll be a happy camper. But I don't see it happening.
Yeah, we might get some better football this time around. I'm hoping.
I think we're gonna get some better football. We're gonna get some tighter games. That's what the divisional round is for, and then the championship rounds. It separates the great teams from the teams where slots got to get filled.
And there might be one of the games, maybe two of them, where it's like the score gets a little out of hand.
Near the end, I think that San Fran Green Bay game's probably
could go
going
one
to
way
get
or
a
the
little
other.
bit out
And
of
same
hand.
with Baltimore. I think it could go one way or the other.
I don't know, just because you can't cat out C.J. Stroud and how good he's been playing, but Baltimore's defense is just a whole nother animal.
And that offense is just
speed
everywhere. Lamar kills you no matter what.
Yeah. But we'll find out. I hope this made you think.